Hey guys, Ron from Clarity. In today's video, we're going to go through the tips and tricks on how do I protect myself and how do I edit when I make a mistake, I delete something, I need to restore something. I've got multiple people on my team that I'm worried about giving them editing or super user rights. What do I do? So let's get started. I'm going to go ahead and log in. So here we are. And I've got some different information on my website. So obviously I've got these pages, I've got some good information on here. I'm going to edit this and I'm going to remove this, but I want to make sure to save a copy of this before I get rid of it. So how do I write it down? How do I save? Historically, I'd go into edit content and then you go into source and then you can copy and paste all this, right? And you could put it in another file. So I used to have a file called, an HTML file called snippets, and I would have all these documented little snippets everywhere. That's certainly one way to do it. Another thing to do that I like to do is make sure to go into the settings of the module, and I like to name my modules. The titles don't show up. So this is the home page banner module, right? So I can update that. So it doesn't change the look, but at least I have that. Now, why would I do that? Well, what happens if I accidentally come in here and I go in and delete this module? Whoops, I deleted the module and I don't know how to get it back. Okay, well, if I come up here to content, you can see there is a recycle bin. And if I go to the recycle bin, you can see there's pages that have been deleted. There's users that have been deleted. And in my case, modules that have been deleted. And you can see that if you don't put a name in here, it's really hard to go view profile, navigation, navigations. I don't know which one got deleted, but because I named that one the homepage banner, it's really easy to highlight that, hit restore. Do you want to restore that? Yes, I do. And come back, refresh my page, and my module's back. So you want to check your recycle bin, but one of the things you want to do is make sure to name your modules. There's another reason we're going to do naming modules. We'll cover that in a second. So number one, do that. Number two, let's say I want to be able to copy this to other pages, and there's numerous ways to do that. We'll cover both of them today. The first one is to be able to back this up. Maybe I'm going to modify this, but I want to have a backup so when I go create other pages, I could always get it back. So one of the things I can do, I can import and export this content of this individual module, not the page. So for this banner module now, I'm going to click export. Now I always like to create myself a backup directory. And now you can see it's homepage banner. Now, because it's an XML file, I can't use special characters, so I camel case it. So I'll say home page banner, and I might even go so far as to say 4/23/23. Actually, today's the 25th. I was going to just put 4/23, but then I thought, well, maybe I'll put the date time. So I'll put the date and I'll export that. If I came in here and I accidentally delete this, but I don't know that it's a recycle bin, I don't know how to get it back. Well, one of the things I can do now is I can just add a module, click HTML, put it up in the banner. Now I have an empty module, and into that module, I can import content. I could go to my backup directory, click specified, and I can see my backup import. I can import that file, and I'm back up and running. So it's a lot easier to make progress on your site and edit your site when you're comfortable and know how to recover if you make a mistake. So now let's say I go in and modify the content. So now I'm going to come in here and let's just go down below this graphic and go, hey there, got some help, just put in a typo accidentally, right? So now I've gone in and now I've got this information here. So just pretend somebody's gone into some content, they've typoed, they've changed a graphic, they've done something and messed it up and you're not sure how to get it back. Well, one of the things you can do when you edit content is by default, it has version history turned on in the rich text editor. Sometimes you may have to switch from the basic to the rich text editor. Once you do, the version history is enabled. So now I can click on version history and it'll say, oh, there's another version here. This new one on today's date at 5:33 was just saved, but there's an old version that was updated at 5:32, which happens to be when I just restored it and imported it, right? So I can click re-import, save, and now you can see it's gone. And what it'll do is it will roll back to that previous version. And if I don't like this version and go, no, I want to go back again, I can go back to edit content, go to the version history, and now you can see there's 3 versions, right? So it tracks, and it usually keeps at least the latest 5 versions, but it allows you to go through the version history. You can roll back each one, save it, test it, go back and play with it. So that's another way to, if somebody's made a change, or if you accidentally make a change and you're like, oh no, I want to get back, but the content's still there, how can I roll back? If you remember the word rollback, you can use the version history to roll back an option. So there's another one. Another thing that I like to do is I like to protect myself using permissions from my own users, right? I used to have 17 people on my marketing team, and every one of them had a different level of expertise in DNN or in the CMS, and I didn't like all of them to have super user rights to go in and blow up the site every day. So what I did was I would create, let me just go in here to pages, I would create a custom page for them, right? So for example, if I want, let me go in and add a page, and we'll call this Ron's Sandbox, right? And I'm not going to include that in the menu, and I'm going to go ahead and just add the page, right? So now I happen to get to the page. If I don't know how to get it, if it's not in the menu, I go back to pages. I can either do a search for Ron's and find it, or I can scroll down the feed, see Ron's Sandbox, highlight it, click here, click view, and it'll navigate me to Ron's page. So now one of the things I can do on Ron's page is I can go to page settings, I could click permissions, and instead of allowing all users, I could come in here and add a user. I don't think Ron has a user. I log in as Clarity, so I don't think there's a user there. But let me see if I could log in, see if there's a Clarity user. No, there's not. Usually if there's a user created, it'll automatically show you down here the users that match. You click add, and then in the box, just it'll say Ron Halverson. I can click view and edit. So now Ron is the only one that has rights to edit this page. So I can lock it down really nicely. And so this is Ron's page. Now I actually did create a page for a dummy page. So I want to create this page. So here's the next thing. So let me go show you my sandbox I created. It happened to be called sample assets. So I'm going to go view my sample assets. So I created this banner with white pages. I have this hidden, and I'll show you what that is here in a minute. That hidden one is the JavaScript that loads the live chat on this page. Then I've got a title. So if I want to title something, then for this one, I have a different icon for all the different file types and samples. And then I've got my normal calls to action that I use all the time. So maybe I want to make a page similar to this. So I created my page. Let's go back to Ron's page. We'll view that page. So now what I can do is, instead of adding a module, I haven't imported or exported anything in my sandbox, but I've got this option down here to add an existing module. Now there's 2 ways to add an existing module. Remember before when I told you to name your modules? This is why. So I'm going to come in here and it says from, and I have none specified. I'm going to pick a page. So I'm going to go to my sample asset page. And now you can see, because I named them, I have a content title module, that CTA list with all those icons. I have a banner asset, and then I've got that HubSpot live chat JavaScript. Now, if that HubSpot live chat JavaScript is going to be on every page, and if I modify it for any page, I want it modified for every other page, then I don't want to make a copy of this one. I will say, don't make a copy, add that, and I can just throw that on the page anywhere I want, and it's only visible by administrators. So now I just added the JavaScript live chat. Now I'm going to go back. I'm going to add another. I'm going to add the banner asset, and I'm going to drag it up where I want that. So now there's a banner asset. Then I could go back. Now, oops, I forgot to make a copy. So now if I mess this one up or change this one, it's also going to change it on my digital asset page, which I don't want to do. So I'm going to go back and add it again. But when I pick the page this time, and say sample assets. I want to make sure make a copy is checked. So now when I add the banner, I can come in here, edit the banner. But the nice thing about this is I already have my ARIA label. All I have to do is replace my text. All I have to do is replace my URL. Then banner image of, I just replace the text. ARIA label, image of our clarity, just replace the text. Then all I have to do is just swap out the banner name, and I've got my width and everything. I can save, and I've got my new banner already created for me. Then if I want to add my content, same thing. I can click add an existing module, pick my page, digital assets, and I want to make a copy. So I'll say content title, and I'll throw that right here at the top of the page. So now I've got my assets. So now I could literally go in, and if I can click here and edit just text. So instead of digital resources, this is going to be my FAQs page, right? And I can click save right here. And that allows me to edit just text on the page. If I want to change like these links, then I actually have to go into the other side, edit the content, and then I can either highlight and change using the link tool, or I just click source, and then I can come in here and change the URL for the href for that element, right? So this is another thing. I like to create sandboxes. Now, one of the things that I'll do, remember I just showed you permissions. Let's say this was our training page, and I'm on a training team and I don't know DNN real well, but they don't want to give me administrator rights to the whole site. Well, what the administrator can do then on, let's call this my FAQ module, and it's my responsibility to take care of this FAQ module. Well, what they could do is they could go in as super user to the settings, permissions of this module, uncheck the box so that this module doesn't inherit the permissions from the page. Again, come in here, type Ron. There's no results because Ron doesn't have an account. I logged in as the administrator. But type in Ron, add Ron, and then give Ron view and edit rights to this module only, which is great because now Ron can log into DNN. He has no rights to mess up the entire website. But when he navigates to this page, the edit icon shows up for this FAQ module, and Ron can be responsible for updating the FAQs without messing anything else up. The nice thing that Ron should do is he should have those FAQs on his sandbox, and then he can go in there and use that sample, make the modifications. Then when he's happy with it, he can either go add that module to the existing page, export it and re-import on the new page to update it, copy, paste it over, whatever he wants to do. He's got a lot of options there. So this video was really about how can I release you guys to go edit without worrying about messing things up. I wanted to give you some tips and tricks for restoring. You got your recycle bin. Remember to name your modules. You got the import export. Make sure to create a backup directory. You've got your sandbox. Do everything on a sandbox first, and then you can always add it from the sandbox like I did for my digital assets sandbox. And finally, use permissions at the module level, which you can really lock down anybody's ability to edit things. So they can either edit a whole page, they can edit just a module on a page, and that really helps you protect your website from anybody coming in and accidentally having too many rights and they muck up something they shouldn't be able to have access to. So thanks for watching. Hope that helps.